What is happening, losers and geeks? My name is KotyTang. The weather's changing and I think I'm developing a cold, but we're gonna do this anyway. Welcome everybody to the 1K sub special. This video is dedicated to you guys and your questions, where you get to pester me about my personal life and I have to answer your questions in a way that may or may not make you hate me for very fickle reasons. But that's okay. You guys know me. I don't really give a f. To start off, I just wanted to thank every one of you for subscribing to the channel and watching my videos. Without you guys, this channel genuinely doesn't exist. Without you guys, my opinions would never be heard. So thank you guys for your continued support, and I hope you guys all continue to stick with me. Oh, and if this Q&A video isn't enough for you, I also live stream pretty frequently now, so if you got a question that you suddenly have now, you can always ask on the live streams when I do them. Let's get to some questions. These are all taken from my community post and the Discord. Thanks to all those who took the time to ask me a question and to make this video possible. So our first question comes from Wartex on Discord, who asks, what character would you give a focus on in the IDW series to sort of take advantage of the canon status of the comics? Okay, I can't keep up the YouTube voice with this cold, okay? So we're gonna drop it back down, okay? Easily Surge the Tenric. Wildcard characters are literally some of the coolest things ever. And since she seems to be gunning for anti-hero status, she's gonna be my obvious pick. She'd also be a great alternative to shake things up in Sonic games if she ever got a focus game like Shadow has. So yeah, thanks for the question, buddy. Frankly Sonic on Discord asks, where did the name KotyTang come from? So there's a movie from 2001 called QnA. If you've ever seen it, it's this extremely goofy comedy about a guy who skyrockets into stardom. In the movie, he's literally one of the greatest gifts of the world. I had a friend who used to call me KotyTang just to reference the movie, and eventually I would go on to use this name exclusively for YouTube activity. For some deep cut KotyTang lore, way back in 2010 was my first official attempt at doing YouTube. I was a young teenage kid trying to be a Let's Player with a group of other people. In the video, that's like the first time I was publicly named KotyTang, as that's when I officially started using it as a brand. I was actually featured in all of the videos on that channel, so you can watch some classic Cody cringe on there before I became scorned with the world. I'll drop the link to that channel below for you to check out. The Sultan 1470 on YouTube asks, would you join me on a quest to break down Sega's front doors, storm the offices, and demand Mimic in Sonic Fumble, Mimic in Otherworlds Racing, Mimic in Sonic Speed Simulator, and as the now ambassador of the Mimic Lovers Club? What the hell is, what is this? What am I reading right now? No, I don't think I'll be doing any of this. Mr. Me.484 on YouTube and Crack on Discord both ask, what gave you the love of writing you have today, and where did your love for writing come from? Where did your journey start? In school, specifically 3rd grade. Basically what happened was we had an assignment in class where we just write something. I just had a really great time writing the story and the teacher said she thought it was good. That was like the first time that I was like, oh, okay, well, writing pretty cool, huh? But that teacher was also rude as hell, so that was like the nicest thing she'd ever said to me. It wasn't until like 8th or 9th grade that I truly started getting into writing, as there were various assignments where we were just allowed to write stuff. I don't have any of the things that I wrote for any of those assignments, but writing was always my favorite class because I could just make up anything I wanted and get a good grade for it. I started looking at stories more analytically around that time too, which is where I started to learn more about structure, cliches, common tropes for each genre, and learning some of the greater writers in each genre. So TLDR, writing classes all throughout high school and a little bit of middle school. Skyscraper Madness 0904 on YouTube asks, what are my favorite Sonic villains? So I don't have any favorite Sonic villains aside from Eggman himself, but I do have favorite antagonists. So Surge and Shadow are pretty much the highest up there for me, even though Shadow is just a shell of who he could have been. The way I imagine stories for him makes him S tier, as well as Surge. Really, even for Eggman, it's how I imagine him being rather than how he's actually portrayed these days, which is a constant thing for like every character. Kobold Effect on YouTube asks, which aspect of Sonic's world building interests you the most? So, none of it, to be entirely honest. IDW has something closer to what I like for world building. The games do a horrendous job at world building, though. Everything is just kind of thrown everywhere with no cohesion or thought on how any of it would work. So yeah, pretty much none of it interests me on like a technical level, but I like Gun. I do like how they kind of make like all these islands like different magical stuff. That's pretty cool. I like how there's like a mix between animals and humans. That's really interesting, even though they stopped doing that, but it was interesting when they did it. But yeah, the way IDW does it is kind of what I would prefer, where there's like set towns and stuff like that, where you're like, okay, well, we're here right now, and then, oh, now we're over here. Whereas in the games, you're like, well, we're here, but in the last game, this was right here, so I guess now this is moved over here in this game. So yeah. Red Yoshi 21 on YouTube and Kaburi on Discord asks, what is your favorite Sonic game? So my all-time favorite Sonic game. To be honest, I don't even have a favorite Sonic game. All Sonic games are majorly underperforming games to me, so it's very rare that I'll even play them more than once. I got much better things to play than Sonic all day, which is also a big reason my streams will not be Sonic-centric. If I am gonna play a Sonic game, it's gonna be for the background, so I guess in that case, it would be like Sonic and Shadow Generations and Sonic Adventure 2, because they have like a ton of mods, so it makes it more interesting to play them. So I guess those two are tied for this question. Dan10A on Discord asks, what made you start making videos and what got you into Sonic? So the thing that made me start making YouTube videos that I make for this channel specifically were a few YouTubers that I'm sure many of you will know about. Obviously, I'm inspired by like different people as well, but these are probably the larger influences. Controversies and current events aside, because I know some people on this list ended up going over the edge over time, we'll say. Either way, these are the people who inspired the ways I would approach video creation on this channel in a variety of ways. It may shock you, but none of them are Sonic tubers. Matthew Matosis, JonTron, Angry Joe Show, Totally Not Mark, C-Reacts, Myster Fusion, K-Bash, B-Mask, Ralph the Movie Maker, Joe Budden, Destiny, H3H3, Filthy Frank, Turkey Tom, Kavos, and iDubbbz. And I'm sure there's more, but I don't really care to go searching for people that I didn't immediately think about. Mix all those guys together and you get KotyTang. If we're just talking about like when I did a few Let's Plays in 2010, these are some real deep cut OGs and I wonder if anybody recognizes them. Hellfire Comms, Omega 2040, Jedi 1, Spax 3, Cloud 8745, and Quadraxis 14. As for the second question, the way I got into Sonic, we gotta go all the way back to when I was like 3 or 4 years old. My first video games, not Sonic game, the very first video games I've ever played in my life were Sonic 1 and 2 on the Sega Genesis. My parents had that for like a while, I assume, before I was born. Ever since then, Sonic has been embedded into my life and he's never left. I literally grew up with the franchise. Overhead 816 on Discord asks, greetings KotyTang and congratulations on the milestone. Thanks, buddy. When you got into Sonic, what intrigued you and kept you around? So the character designs were the largest draw. I still remember the first time seeing modern Sonic for the first time. I didn't own a Dreamcast or even a GameCube. I instead had a PS1 and a PS2. So I would go to one of my friend's house to play Sonic and a few other games. That was also how I was introduced to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, with 2 being the superior one in every way to me at the time. But the designs of all the characters would keep me hooked even to this day. I've pretty much always been impressed with the art style of this franchise. Other than that, it's what the characters used to mean to me and the ideas that I constantly have circling in my head for them. The games and these stories, unsurprisingly, do not keep me here. Although these days, it is the fact that much of my audience ended up being Sonic-based. So, I'd say without this YouTube channel, I would no longer be a fan of Sonic and I would have abandoned this franchise a while ago. But since I am a Sonic tuber now, I decided to dedicate this channel to changing the things that are keeping me away from Sonic. One of the major things being, of course, the writing. The other being the gameplay itself and designs of the games. Playing a Sonic game is like playing a high-quality indie game instead of a AAA company's 30-year-old mascot franchise. John Tor EF on Discord asks, Sonic baddies ranking win. Well, Surge is number 10 all the way up to 1. So, next question. Zerkskiana on Discord has quite a few questions actually, but they're all pretty good general information questions, so I'll cover them all pretty quickly. Question, what are your plans for the channel when you're done covering all the Sonic stories if you do? If I end up running out of Sonic material somehow, then I'll switch to covering things like Zelda, Final Fantasy, Dragon Ball, Dragon Quest, Kingdom Hearts. To be honest, I do have an interest in just throwing a video out like that randomly, just to see if anybody has an interest in me covering those franchises at all. What are some hobbies you got? What are you doing in your free time? playing. I'll write a ton, whether it's just character ideas, random notes, filling out characters in a world, making a world itself. Sometimes I'll just put on some music and let my mind go into a scene, and sometimes I'll end up writing it, or I'll just use a song as like a capture to just remember a scene for all eternity. Other than that, I'll play video games, obviously. My favorite genres are RPGs, Metroidvanias, life simulator games, and open world survival craft games. A lot of those also allow for like casual listening for like YouTube videos in the background, since they don't really require a lot of reading or watching cutscenes. I used to be able to read physical books, but I don't have time to do that as well as the other things I want to do. So if I'm going through a book, I'm listening to them through Audible at work. I'm currently listening to the Stormlight series and Fablehaven series. I nearly finished the Hobbit book, but took a break from that. I'm pretty interested in checking out Carnival Row. I was never interested in the TV show itself after the episode that I saw, which was the first one. Other than that, I'll be listening to music at work, but if I'm not listening to music, I'll listen to more writing nonsense. I really like when Brandon Sanderson posts his college lectures. He has a ton of insight on like the industry itself and just like how things are put together generally. Usually I already know everything he's talking about, but it's just really interesting to either get a recap or hear like if any of his opinions or something has changed over time. Or I'll listen to different YouTubers. Sort of a guilty pleasure at this point. I recently got into listening to HoloLive streamers because I decided to go down a VTuber rabbit hole, since they always have some drama going on, like the VShojo. So I decided to take a little deep dive into the VTuber space, and I discovered Filian and Rima Evanstar, Niji Sanji, and in terms of like VTuber companies, HoloLive is apparently the only good egg of that entire community, and so now I'm addicted. So, you know, shouts out to KotyTang for being the Sonic ambassador still to this day. RIP Game Grumps. But I actually do have a slightly different reason that I'm wanting to actually listen in on these VTubers, and that's because it pushes me to research and practice learning a little Japanese on the side, because, you know, hearing them speak Japanese helps me pick up on words and sentences easier. Secretly, it's actually a plot that I'm concocting to slam dunk Sonic fans that just trust whatever Wendy translates without having even a basic understanding of Japanese. The amount of Sonic fans that legit tell me to watch Wendy's video and then also inform me they don't even understand Japanese is insane. How are you gonna reference a video where you don't even understand what's actually being said and just trust it? At the moment, I just take Wendy's videos with a grain of salt, but the more I learn Japanese, HoloLive is one of the rare feel-good media I'll ever watch though. But since I don't really like watching people sit down and play a game, I pretty much never have time to just sit and watch a stream of theirs, unless it's like them all acting in a big group because they do all these big collabs. So if they're just playing a game, I usually won't tune in. For me, it's more about listening material, since I'll usually be at work when I listen to YouTubers. So if they ain't yapping about something or playing something that I don't really have to see, I don't really care to tune in. Instead, it's a lot easier to watch YouTubers like Turkey Tom or June the King, people like that. I don't usually like idle watch people. Sometimes I'll watch like a gameplay of something if I'm like really interested in a game, or like, you know, something funny is like happening in it. But if I'm watching a video, it's majorly to learn something or be filled in on things happening online. So if your video's over 15 minutes, I'm a lot more interested in that. I don't really enjoy short form content very much. It just doesn't cover as much as it needs to and ends up being a shallow video. Who are your top 10 favorite Sonic characters? Kind of a tough question, considering the majority of these characters aren't even recognizable anymore for why I like them in the first place. Or it's just a lack of any sort of potential being placed on any of them. So in no particular order: Surge, Shadow, Metal Sonic, Knuckles, Eggman, Silver, Blaze, Rouge, Tangle, and then Whisper. What is your favorite movie, TV show, book, and anime? I don't have an impressive list of things as some people might expect. I'm a pretty simple person when it comes to favorites. I don't usually go for like highly philosophical or deep dives on like writing or stuff like that. So my favorite movie is undeniably the Goofy movie. My favorite TV show is Dragon Ball Kai, easily. My favorite book, I'm actually a pretty big Potterhead behind the scenes, so genuinely might be that. I want to say Half-Blood Prince, if not Order of the Phoenix, is my favorite Harry Potter book. My favorite anime is the same as my favorite TV show, Dragon Ball Kai. For as much as I know about Sonic, I know just as much, if not more. Those are my two lifelong obsessions that have been with me for my entire life. So yeah. What are your favorite video games / video game franchises? My favorite franchises are Zelda, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, the My Time At series, the new line of Assassin's Creed starting from Odyssey, and the Rune Factory franchise. My favorite video games are Final Fantasy VII Remake Trilogy, the Xenoverse series, Rune Factory 4, My Time at Sandrock, and an old MMO called Mabinogi. I guess I can say Kingdom Hearts 2, that's fine. Kingdom Hearts 2 is still an untouched masterpiece. What do you want from Sonic writing-wise and gameplay-wise? I would like an action RPG for Sonic. Just one series of Sonic games that follows that formula so we can have an actual top-tier multi-layered writing with multiple areas to explore and character storylines to follow. And opportunities to see people and do quests for them and interact with characters not usually seen. Those would be the only Sonic games I would actually care to play if they ever made those. With an action RPG, the possibilities are limitless. It's one of the most moldable genres that you could possibly make a game for. If you want to make it a platformer, you can do that. If you want to make it a game where there's just mini game sections where you do Sonic Generations bits, they absolutely can. They want to add some exploration and all that stuff, they can do that as well, just toss it in. Genuinely, action RPGs are one of those ultimate genres that can be molded into anything and are usually really long games spanning 30 to 40 hours minimum. A Sonic game on that scale, that's what I would want, and they'll likely never do that. Wartex237 on Discord asks, KotyTang, what is the road that allowed you to acquire your skills? Whether it is communication, debating, quick and critical thinking, etc. Essentially, the abilities you have displayed through your videos and this server. Okay, so I didn't go to college. I stopped going to school after I graduated high school. Everything I learned about writing is through years of research starting from my freshman year of high school though. I would basically just actively search into tons of highly specific topics for writing in my own time and just apply these things to my own writing over the years. So what I mean by that is I would research everything from how to start a book, what makes a good protagonist, antagonist, side characters, what are morals in a story, how to deconstruct themes, what makes a good rival, the specifics of a character arc, different structures used in books, world building, the specific construction of storylines like the hero's journey, personality types, how to do multiple perspectives, how to properly use first and third person, page layouts, the industry of freelance writers versus publishers, video game writers, movie directors, movie writers, anime writers, manga, storybooking, screenplays, stage plays, why chapters are as long or as short as they are, deep dives into famous stories, deep dives into stories I just like myself, and there's so much more that I'm constantly researching all across the years. And I still do that, even to this day. I'm still looking up like all type of things on writing, see if there's any new tricks that somebody learned or something like that. Whether it was from watching videos, reading articles, or just listening to interviews and lectures with like different authors. If it's something about writing, I just had a massive interest in personally looking into it. I just love the craft of storytelling itself. Everything in relation to that, even if it may seem boring to somebody else, I was and still am extremely fascinated by the vast majority of it. That's where my writing experience actually came from. Actual research and application to it in my own work and stuff like that. While I'm not like a published author, there's a huge layer of actual practice put into it behind the scenes. Now my debate experience is a bit different, but as you've seen in the Discord, it definitely works. I used to not really care about arguments and stuff like that. I wasn't very confrontational back in the day, but funny thing, it was being in a relationship that turned on a few switches for me. Without getting too into it, I needed to find out how to spot lies and inconsistencies really quickly. This eventually led to a love for debating and arguments. Yeah, weird start to it. But eventually I would begin watching actual debates from political to religious, philosophical, and it would dwindle down into the online space. I would see people arguing online or making statements that I just knew were absolutely false, and I knew the facts on hand to back it up, so my primary space for arguing was just YouTube comments. Not on this channel, as I had a different one back then, but you can see that this enjoyment of arguments online has persisted even to this day into my comment section. My favorite debaters are the cutthroat facts on hand debaters. I can't stand debaters who act clueless, make up information, and just seek like easy wins. I want to watch people that like, when I research what they just said, it's 100% true. That's the type of debater I like. Like I said, one of the things I started with was religious debates. I would eventually be introduced to Destiny through a debate he had with JonTron. Destiny was able to pull out fact after fact and call out the inconsistencies and actual meanings of JonTron's statements, which genuinely fascinated me. I've watched people like Jordan Peterson, Steven Crowder, and Ben Shapiro, which interested me as well at the time, but none of them brought the same energy that Destiny was bringing. At the time, Destiny would majorly have his debates toward his own online group and a few bystanders or drama starters about various relatable everyday topics, rather than his political side. So I majorly adopted his style of heavily researched, aggressive, inquisitory, lie-discovering, and fact-based debate style, and I just molded that into my own. I didn't even have to agree with anything Destiny was saying. His style of debate is what inspired my own debate skill to be fully realized. Whenever I debate, it's really just entertainment media, so like characters and worlds and stuff like that. I just find it to be a lot more fun than debating politics, because usually having an opinion doesn't, you know, end in ways that it probably shouldn't. So a bit after my channel began heading into the direction of Sonic, if I wasn't responding to various comments on my videos, I actually started going into Reddit for a little bit and finding people to just have arguments with. I haven't been on Reddit in a long time, but those arguments are still up. They're all Sonic related, so you can kind of search me up on Reddit and then find all my Sonic stuff. I haven't done this in like a long time, but those arguments are still up and occasionally still get replies, so if you want to see them, go check it out. Look me up on Reddit. I've only been in a few arguments on Twitter. I would say the first test of my ability to debate somebody was long before I was a Sonic tuber, which came from my very first Dragon Ball video on my channel. The guy that I was debating with, like, we're cool now though, so it's whatever. My next attempt was against a Sonic tuber named Fukurou-Hoseki. But you know, we know how that went down. I'd like to say I'm 2 for 2 right now in official debate style videos. Aside from those official public videos, I would regularly argue with like my friend groups about anime and things like that. Cause I would know like a ton of stuff about like the history and stuff like that, so I could like debate around people and their idea and perception of the franchises, which is literally what I now do with Sonic. Unfortunately, I've never been in a true actual debate setting, and I'm completely open to anybody that wants to try that. I have no problem with that. I would really love to see how people fare against me about anything like that. But I do know I've had plenty of people try me in the comments at this point, and especially on Discord where like the replies are instant. And I've never shied away from anybody on that yet. Anybody that wants to try me, I mean, yeah, you can go ahead. I have no problem. The major thing for me is that when I'm arguing, I'm not just looking to get a quick win or be like, oh, gotcha, right? I want to actually be correct. When you go to look up something I said, I want you to be like, holy crap. That's exactly what KotyTang said was true. That's just the most important part to me. If I genuinely can't prove something, I have no reason to argue the point. It's not a stance I have. I mean, if I'm being jokey, yeah, I can pretty much argue anything. In the Discord, as like a little tee-hee ha-ha, I'll purposely argue something that I don't even believe just to see if I could even do it. But I've never done that for like YouTube comments or a video like that. Everything that you read in the comments is 100% my actual take. Well, I guess unless I'm messing with somebody because of how stupid they are, because there's a lot of stupid people that pop up in my comments, I'll tell you, man. Eru Macro on Discord asks, what do you do to practice your writing skills? This is actually like a really important question because every single writer should know this, and every single writer should be doing this. This is one of the best ways to get better if you're not just actively writing books, okay? So I'll make up characters and write entire backstories. I'll write one-off scenes. I'll create entire worlds with maps and backstories of various locations, and I take a lot of time doing this. I'll spend like, I'll open up Paint or Krita and make an entire map or something like that. Then through the years, I'll revisit these worlds and just create random moments for them. I'll go back and revise old worlds that I also put aside and just keep working on them and making them bigger and more interesting to me. I've plotted out 3 separate books that I really wanted to publish at one point in my life, but just never had time. They're all unrelated to each other as well. For one of them, I even fully wrote 34 chapters for before I ultimately decided to replot out the story entirely. I've even done quite a few private fanfics just set in the world of various games or anime, or even mock-up scripts and ideas for video games. One of my favorites that I always come back to is that I have an entire fanfiction dedicated to creating my idea of the perfect Zelda game with various scenes, game mechanics, locations, backstories, and story moments fully written and plotted out. At one point, I actually did upload a fanfiction of Skyrim in 2019 where I created an entire cast of characters to be perspectives to follow. I made one for each and every guild, and then I just plotted out the entire story of Skyrim front to back, DLC included, to make it as though it was a book. When I finished plotting that out, it was 4 books long. So it would have been a pretty big commitment. I also began doing the same thing with Fallout 4, but quit that one in favor of the Skyrim fanfiction. I still have the entire storyboard for the Skyrim story saved in my documents, but I only ended up finishing and uploading 15 chapters of that. I'll post a link to that as well in the description of this video to anybody who's interested in reading some 2019 KotyTang fanfiction. This is a nightmare question due to how massive the size of this is. And the next one you have will be more of the same. I'll be able to break these down. Definitely find ways to dwindle your own questions down. There's a lot of your own opinions in here, so if there's a part of your question that I just don't get to, try making your questions more cohesive for the next Q&A. The TLDR is, what do I think about how Ian has shifted the character dynamics in his writing? I've given a few takes on how I feel about many of the characters at this point, so I'll just stick to the things that you brought up. For a big blanket statement on this, I don't want characters to forever be their SA2 versions or the Thousands era, whatever you want to call it. I want them to grow and evolve over time based on their experiences, but I do want them to stick to a character direction I'd imagine them going. For your examples on Sonic, I like that Sonic is more playful. I just don't think any of Ian's jokes land for the type of character Sonic is. He's just as cringe as he is in 2010. He's just a different kind of cringe. When I imagine Sonic being playful, I imagine he would give off popular Big Brother type energy, not annoying cousin that won't leave you alone type energy like Ian and Sonic Team gives him. I genuinely don't care if he's never made a joke in SA1 or SA2. The stoic nature of Sonic in Japan is so lame to me. The guy doesn't even give his friends nicknames. He lacks any sort of capturing personality. I'm sure it's one of many reasons that Sonic just isn't popular in Japan. He's just not an interesting person. The thing that makes Japanese Sonic interesting is the people that he meets, not Japanese Sonic himself. I like my protagonists when they like have something going on, not when they're just kind of like a force of nature running around doing stuff. I think it's just really lame. As for Sonic being a hero, I think that a lot of fans get this wrong, and I don't know where they got this idea from. Sonic is a hero in nearly every form. He just doesn't see himself as a traditional hero. But he absolutely intentionally does heroic things very often. Ian openly making Sonic think of himself like a superhero is what's actually lame, not Sonic doing heroic stuff. As for the dynamic with Sonic and Knuckles, if Sonic and Knuckles' banter hasn't evolved into pissing each other off, then I wouldn't even bother considering them friends. This is exactly what Sonic and Knuckles' dynamic should be at this point in their friendship. For Sonic and Tails becoming like big bro and little bro, I think it's perfectly fine. Again, it's a logical progression of their friendship, just like Knuckles and Sonic is. And then there's Sonic and Amy's dynamic. Sonic and Amy's dynamic relaxing over time also makes more sense as well, since Amy is starting to come on adventures more often, meaning she's going to see Sonic more often. Just give her moments where she gets excited to see him rather than obsessive. And as for Sonic, he should have become a lot more accustomed to her attitude at this point. So to respond to some stuff you said about Amy, as I said for this bit in Sonic about Amy's dynamic that she had with him, the longer Amy is with Sonic, the less this obsession with him should persist. It turning into genuine infatuation as they adventure together is a lot better and makes more sense to me as a progression for her character. Now, it's true that I did always find Amy to be a really annoying character, and if that's what her character was, is a useless crybaby person, that's fine, but if she's going to join in on adventures and directly deal with the threats in combat, she's obviously gonna have to grow out of that. So where Amy is today makes a lot of sense for her to be. The only problem is obviously they just shotgunned her into that and didn't develop her to be this character that she is now. And then there's Tails. I don't like that Tails is a hyper genius with an IQ that seemingly far exceeds Eggman's. I don't like how in SA2 he made an entire Chaos Emerald. I think that's all really dumb. Tails is a very uninteresting character because, like Sonic, he can just accomplish anything at any moment. So whenever we see him struggle with anything, it genuinely just doesn't make any sense. Tails can make mechs and technology that rivals Eggman, so why is he entering battle with a yellow Wii U all the time? I'd like Tails a lot more if he was just a really smart kid that made cool gadgets, not a Dexter's Lab or Jimmy Neutron level of boy genius. The base dynamic for Tails is inherently flawed to me from the jump, so Ian making him worse is just like, well, he already sucked and now he just sucks more. As a final comment I'll say on this, there's a huge chunk of Sonic fans that want every single character to be exactly as they were in that 2000s era, and I think that's hella stupid. I don't know why so many of you guys want these characters to be the same exact people throughout all of time, with absolutely no progression in their lives or feelings on each other. I'm pretty sure that's a holdover from Sonic fans not really understanding anything about about storytelling and majorly and exclusively only focusing on how characters act rather than the stories being told, so they can't possibly fathom a progression of a character. They would have researched how one single character was to its exact detail in one single game to the point that that's all they know and they can't possibly think of anything past that. Oh, and also I've already clarified that I don't think Sonic acts correct in my Metal Virus Saga review for IDW, as well as later issues in the IDW series. So I've already backtracked that statement majorly here at the end, but I do think that Sonic is still fine in the early issues of IDW until issue 4. It doesn't match SA1 and 2, but it does match his attitude more in Black Knight and Secret Rings, where he's more active, snarkier, sarcastic, and talkative. So your next question here is basically, is Ian a hack fraud writer, or is the fandom just stupid for complaining that a character is being forced to be written in character? I think Ian was more of a hack when he tried to tell the fans that Chaos Control doesn't warp than he is with his shadow take. It's fine when any writer wants to change the dynamic of a character. The major problem is making that progression feel like it's in character and doing it in a way that fans will accept. The struggle that pretty much any writer is going to have for the Sonic fandom is that you can't possibly change how a character is. They have to be this way for all time. I'd be on Ian's side for the intention to change Shadow. Not for the cringe way that he wants to write Shadow, but just like every character in the series, I don't want everyone to be mascots with set personalities that never change. It's dumb as hell and it's boring. I'd like for Shadow to slowly break out of his shell and accepting people, not being open about his emotions, of course. I'd want him to keep his serious and calm nature, but him struggling to just say like a casual hello to somebody in a relaxed way just has me rolling my eyes at this point. I don't like how Shadow is just an angry dickhead and that's just his character. It's really dumb and it's gotten old long ago. He should have progressed long past this. I also don't care what anybody who made Shadow says or what any creator of Sonic wants these characters to be. They gave us 10 straight years of 2010 Sonic. Nobody ever talks about how they hired and approved everything those writers wrote in that time. Now they're hiring and approving every single thing Ian Flynn writes, and many fans that I experience in my Sonic and Shadow Gens video don't understand that Ian can't just upload a script and it's in the game. Sonic team have to look over and approve his writing, and if they say they don't like it, they send it back and he has to do it again. So clearly they think Ian is doing solid work. That's why he's the #1 greenlit writer for anything this franchise has that they need a writer for. They love Ian's work and how he handles the vast majority of these characters. That's why over time we're gonna keep seeing these IDW personalities starting to show in the games. Sega and Sonic Team's opinions on this franchise mean nothing to me. The only thing I care about is how I think these characters should be progressing. Crack from Discord asks, will we ever get other long rewrite videos similar to your Frontiers video? I personally enjoy seeing what others would do different and I enjoyed watching. Well, thank you for that, Cray. I appreciate you enjoying the video. So absolutely, of course, I'm always willing to make rewrite videos for just about anything, as long as it's requested by enough people. I had a ton of fun doing the Frontiers rewrite, so I'd be open to doing another. Don't know if I'm gonna do the pictures to go along with it this time though. We'll see about that one. PPT Productions 7058 on YouTube asks, a few questions here, so I'll get to each one, okay? Do you like Mega Man? I actually do not like Mega Man very much. I like Mega Man Legends, Mega Man Zero, and Mega Man Battle Network though. What's your favorite Sonic design? My favorite Sonic design has only ever been in art. I don't think a single game has ever properly captured Sonic's style. The more recent works of Yuji Uekawa and how Aaron Hammerstorm draws the characters for IDW are what I really lean toward and want them to look like in the games. What's your favorite Sonic handheld / 2D Sonic level? None. I don't like traditional 2D platformers, nor do I like the classic gameplay style. The only thing the 2D Sonics have going for them is that they're fast. If a 2D game isn't a Metroidvania, I don't really care to play it. I just don't like 2D platformers. They're not fun to me. Once we started releasing a ton of Metroidvanias, the 2D platformer genre just completely died because Metroidvanias already have 2D platforming, but they also have 1,800 layers of other stuff that's so much more interesting to do. Crack on Discord also asks, if there was a group / team of characters that you could change in any way you want, which would you pick and why? Silver. I'd completely remove the time traveling aspect of his character character. Blaze would have to be thrown away too, and I would create an entirely unique storyline all on his own, where he has his own cast of characters and problems to deal with. I see absolutely no reason at all to have Silver involved in any story that isn't in his timeline. And his time traveling mechanic is not only unexplained still, but time traveling stories in general just break canon and cohesion of the plot in so many ways. So yeah, I'd give Silver an entire spin-off series set 200 or more years in the future, where Sonic and the majority of the cast have long left the world. I see no reason to have every single game focus on Sonic when there are so many characters in the cast, and anytime Silver has a game, it'd be cool to see the original creations of newer writers. Although I wouldn't go for an apocalypse setting, I'd go for a grand metropolis thing. End of the world stories are cool, but for something that's going to be long form, something hopeful would actually be nice. Maybe just a few areas are apocalyptic, but making the majority of the world be fine, like how Sonic's world already is how I would actually go about making a forever running series for Silver. For our last question, Stefan Barksdale on stream asks, how should the story direction of the Sonic franchise go? Well, obviously Sonic needs to start heading in the direction of, at the very least, an industry standard for storytelling. If they want to be like an ongoing series, then they gotta work with how ongoing series work. We really need to sit down and consider the purpose of all of these characters if that's the case. And that means we're gonna need to think about how the world is put together too, and so much more. I'd say after playing Murder of Sonic, the type of story that is telling actually works really well. It's overflowing with character, the story is actually well thought out for something involving, you know, Sonic. That level of in-depth character dynamics where everybody can be interacting with each other for various reasons, that's just interesting stuff that we really need. A lot of these characters don't even know each other, honestly. I'd like the franchise to really consider everybody's role in the stories themselves. If we don't have a well-rounded way to put a character in and play a role in the story that we're seeing, then they shouldn't be in it. Although, if we go the route of an action RPG, so many characters can be put into the game at any time just to fill up side quest space and mini storylines to follow. We need to drop the Eldritch Beast gimmick. It's so overplayed at this point. We need villains with well thought out and tangible backstories. We get nothing out of a monster roaring at the cast, but we get so much character from something that can speak and argue with the cast. We also need to consider Sonic taking a back seat more. We have plenty of speedsters who can fight enough on their own, who can replace Sonic as the main character for a little bit, depending on the type of stories we're trying to tell, especially in order to develop these characters even further. Sonic is at the apex of his adventuring. He's as static of a character as you can get. At best, he's gonna punch you harder next game, but he has nothing to learn, nothing to grow, nothing new to experience. Sonic never questions himself, his story is just complete. So we look to our other characters who have star power or can be given star power. Blaze, Silver, Shadow, Espio, Jet, and even Amy are all eligible characters to take the reins of the story and have us play as them. We can still, of course, have games and stories with Sonic where he meets various characters and does his thing, but that in no way needs to be the only type of story we have for this franchise. We have so many characters with varied backstories and unexplored backstories. Hell, even Knuckles can get his own game and story. One of the ways that we can do Sonic stories specifically can be the go to random island to find a guy and fix their entire lives up. That's not the only story that we can do. So let's ask ourselves, what's everybody else up to while Sonic is doing that? Are there any other ventures we can explore? Has anybody been long overdue for some development? Are there any characters we don't see together often that we can pack together for an adventure? There's just no reason to have this entire cast of characters if all we're gonna do is keep having Sonic meet more and more random people to add on. Let's focus on who we got and give them some spotlight. That's the direction this franchise's stories should be headed. And it looks like that'll do it for the Q&A this time. Thank you guys all so much for asking your questions. This video couldn't have been done without you guys, obviously. And a huge thank you to everybody for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. It means a lot to me, and I hope that we can continue to grow together as time goes on. So that'll do it for this video. Love you guys. Bye bye.